Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into an economic shift that's really shaking things up. We're looking at why so many familiar retail names are closing their doors, and what that means for jobs and, well, the economy overall. Our source material today, it includes a recent YouTube exploration, gives a really vivid, on-the-ground look at this changing retail landscape. And we've paired that with some pretty stark data on layoffs and corporate restructuring.
Right. And our mission today is really to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources. We want to help you understand not just what's happening with all these store closures and layoffs, but, why it matters. And maybe how it feels a bit like past economic shifts, unsettlingly similar perhaps, but honestly, some crucial new twists this time.
Absolutely. And that headline number, it's striking, isn't it? The projection is 15,000 store closures this year. That's just an astonishing figure, much higher than previous years. And, for a lot of people, it has this uneasy echo of, say, the lead up to 2008. But it's the same thing again?
Yeah.
Or something else
Yeah.
entirely? Okay, let's really get into the scale of this because the numbers are quite remarkable. The source highlights that, okay, 7,300 brick-and-mortar stores closed in all of last year, but we've already hit 5,800 closures in just the first half of this year alone.
Yeah.
What does that acceleration tell us
Yeah.
compared to, previous downturns?
Well, that speed, that acceleration, it's probably the most telling part. It really suggests a systemic shift, not just a typical cyclical downturn. We're seeing this mass consolidation, this contraction happening way faster than before. It really indicates the forces at play are, well, fundamental. They're reshaping the whole retail landscape, not just reacting to temporary economic bumps.
And it's not just the small guys, right? We're talking iconic department stores. Macy's is closing over 150 stores in the U.S. The source even mentioned a personal visit to the downtown Brooklyn Macy's, said it felt completely empty, almost apocalyptic, really painting that picture of, the end of an era for mall culture.
And you see it elsewhere, too. Kohl's, for example.
Right.
A similar pattern there, empty stores, closures announced. It just hammers home that this isn't about one chain failing. It's a much broader shift in how people spend money and, frankly, whether they even need that big physical store anymore. It's more than just numbers on a page. It feels like losing places that were, well, part of the community fabric.
That's a really powerful point. So what happens to community building when these big traditional gathering spots just disappear? Are we seeing new ways people connect or just, a more isolated online shopping world? Right.
That's a huge question, and the sources don't give a direct answer, obviously, but the implication is pretty clear. These physical anchors are vanishing, so it forces us to rethink how communities form, how they sustain themselves. Maybe more online, yes, or maybe local businesses have to get really creative about making spaces people want to be in for connection, not just to buy stuff.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, I think. It's not just the department stores or traditional retail. We're seeing some, frankly, surprising struggles from the big pharmacy giants like CVS and Walgreens.
Indeed. CVS, for instance, they've closed 9,000 stores in 3 years, which is staggering. And there are reports, that they're about to go bankrupt. What's fascinating, or maybe alarming, is the sheer scale here. CVS Health is the world's largest healthcare company. They own the pharmacies, CVS Caremark, Aetna Insurance. They were ranked fourth in the Fortune Global 500. So if a company that massive is struggling this badly, what does that signal about the wider economy, about supposedly stable sectors?
It definitely raises some big questions. And then there's Walgreens. They're planning to close 1,200 stores over the next 3 years. Think about 14% of their total footprint. And they lost over $8.5 billion this fiscal year. About 1 in 4 of their stores is unprofitable. But what's really baffling, according to the source material, are some of the leadership decisions. Like the CEO reportedly being in shock, actual shock that sales went down after they locked products in cages and critically understaffed the stores so nobody could get help.
Right.
It just points to this fundamental disconnect between the top brass and what's actually happening on the ground with customers.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And that disconnect isn't unique to pharmacies. We see it in lots of struggling legacy retailers. And we shouldn't forget Rite Aid either. They're going through bankruptcy, closing over 1,000 locations. It just underscores the intense pressure and, well, the fundamental challenges across that whole pharmacy retail sector. It's clearly systemic, not just one or two companies messing up. Shows how quickly even essential services can get disrupted when the business model itself is under fire.
Okay, so if that's the picture in brick and mortar, what about the broader corporate world? The sources are pretty emphatic that, thousands of employees every day are being laid off, often without notice, without cause. This goes way beyond retail.
Exactly. And this brings us to this idea of the great restructuring.
Right.
It's not just about trimming budgets, it's a deeper reevaluation of, well, people, human capital. Organizations are basically asking ruthlessly, what jobs really need a human? What needs that intuition or creativity or complex problem solving that, frankly, AI can't do yet?
Yeah.
And this leads to consolidating roles, especially jobs that seem process driven or, easily automated. They're looking to get rid of irrelevant job titles, yes, but also whole massive teams that maybe haven't shown clear, measurable results lately in this new tech-heavy environment.
Wow. So this great restructuring, what does it actually mean for the individual employee? Sitting in a corporate job right now, maybe feeling pretty stable, how should someone listening even begin to think about their own vulnerability? Or maybe their opportunity in all this?
That's the critical question, isn't it? The sources point out something interesting. The bigger the company, often the harder it is for one person to show their direct impact, to define their unique value. So if your role is being, say, one of 20 people on a project, well, the sources suggest you might be primed to be consolidated. It sounds harsh, but that's the language being used. Companies are actively deciding how to blend humans with AI, with technology. They want to get as much as they can done with the least amount of people possible. Look at Microsoft's recent mass layoffs. That's a prime example, showing this isn't just retail, it's hitting the core of the corporate world too.
And this is where that comparison to 2007 feels different and maybe more worrying. Back then, you had huge job losses, sure, but you didn't have this added layer, this threat of AI potentially taking over roles permanently. Is this a fundamentally different kind of challenge? Is it just a bad recession, or are we talking about something bigger, like a replatforming of how work even functions?
I think that's a really crucial distinction to make. In 2007, the job losses felt more cyclical, tied to the financial crisis. There was a sense maybe that things would eventually bounce back, that those jobs would return as the economy recovered. This time, AI adds a structural change. It's not just temporary layoffs, it's the potential permanent reshaping of entire job categories. So the insight here might be moving from a recovery mindset to more of a reskilling or imagining mindset. The very nature of how value is created is shifting. We're facing job cuts plus technology fundamentally changing what roles are needed. It suggests, yeah, a much more complex and potentially far-reaching situation.
Which brings up the ripple effect, right? What happens next down the line?
Well, the potential trickle-down effect is pretty significant. It's straightforward. Sadly, people lose jobs, then they can't pay their bills, they might default on mortgages, they could potentially lose their homes. It's this chain reaction that can really hit communities hard, pushing people, pushing families into difficult situations they've maybe never faced before.
It's a powerful and frankly alarming picture. The source shared that personal story, working for the welfare department back in 2007, seeing unprecedented numbers of people applying for cash assistance, people who'd never needed help before, all because of job losses, business closures. It really brings home the human cost, doesn't it? Way beyond just the statistics.
Absolutely. And we have to remember, we're only just past the halfway point of 2025. The anticipation, based on the trends, is that a lot more jobs are going to be cut and a lot of businesses are going to be closed down in the months ahead. It's probably a clear signal for everyone listening. If your job feels even a bit insecure, now is the time to think about backup options, contingency plans. So yeah, we've covered some profound changes today from, those iconic department stores just vanishing to healthcare giants like CVS facing serious trouble, and then this huge shift in corporate work itself being redefined by technology. It's a fundamental rethink of how our economy works, and it touches, well, pretty much every part of our daily lives.
So given this incredibly rapid pace of this great restructuring across retail, across corporate America, and this unprecedented integration of AI, what fundamental shifts should you, listening right now, anticipate in how we work, how we shop, maybe even how we build our communities in the very near future? What does this emerging new normal truly demand from us?